I'm back. I'm back. I've made it. I've been all the way to Mars and then some. And I brought back with me for tonight's episode a very special guest. I realized Captain Zodiac was, in fact, our first ever special guest on the Mosaic Ark. And he is here tonight to help guide me through some of the most beautiful objects I've ever seen. I went to this exhibit at the Getty Center on light, and have we got some treats for you tonight. Welcome to the Mosaic Ark. We're here with Captain Zodiac. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh,
Can you
this
hear
is
me?
so happy that you came back. This is, I mean, you were in fact our first ever like special guest, right? And it is so special to me that you get to join us talking tonight about, in fact, among other things, the very design that we're using to present you to the world as Captain Zodiac, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
welcome back. And
yeah.
I'm just dragging you on to take a tour of the Getty Center. Have you been there before? I mean, I've only been there. I've been there. It's like, so it's out in LA, right?
Mhm.
And what's showing right now is the view that you get over the garden. They have this maze. I didn't get to go down to the maze this time because I was so busy looking at light in the exhibit. But it's there on the coast in LA. And I'd been out there before when I went to give a talk at UCLA maybe a decade ago. But I'd been out to the villa more recently, but not to the center. And it's a kind of spooky place. I find it a spooky
Mhm.
place. Have you been up there? Have you ever been out
Yeah,
there to
I,
the
I went
center?
up. I went up in 2002. I think last they had.
Oh.
I think it was experiments in art and technology. I think it was
Hmm.
called Inked or something, and it
Okay.
was like this avant-garde sort of mosaic of trying to represent the people who created the information age, so to speak.
Oh, we should be
Uh,
talking about that one. That sounds great.
Right.
That's,
It
oh,
was very
wow.
cool and different and scary and terrifying at the same
How
time.
so?
Well, insofar as, you know, t- the unexpected can oftentimes bring about different ways of seeing things.
Hmm.
So like, that's why I say, do the thing you're afraid of because you're really opening up pathways in your mind. So when I say it was terrifying, it was kind of freaky to see how they had represented these various moments throughout history. Like the telephone was very violent to the way they tried to show the
Hmm.
telephone being created. It was very interesting to me. Yeah, for sure.
This is all completely topical, and it makes me like I can't decide whether I like the Getty Center or not, right? Because on the one hand, it's in LA, which is, I mean,
Right.
I no, I've had reasons to go there more recently, but I mean, it's like that one visit back in, well, no, okay, so 10 years ago, but I was actually there 30 years ago with an
Mhm.
earthquake right after I left, right? And my
Wow.
sister had been living out there in Hollywood, and I went to visit with my now husband, and we landed in LA, and then we left, and there was an earthquake, and we went to New York City, and there was this ice storm, and then I came out here to Chicago for my job interview. So I'm not sure. It was like if I land in LA, what will happen, right? Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
come in and out, and it's a strange city, right?
it
It's a
is.
very, very strange city, and the Getty is there, perched on this hill, right? Everything's perched on hills, or
Right.
not perched on. It's perched on this hill overlooking the water, and it's kind of like the architecture is really strange,
Hmm.
right? It's not like the Metropolitan or the Art Institute, right? It doesn't have any of that old world glamour. It's entirely new world
Hmm.
stone and modern
Yeah,
architecture and stuff. Yeah,
it kind of feels like it's forcing itself on you. It's really trying. It's not natural. It doesn't
right.
feel natural. But at the same time, I must say I flew through LA recently,
Mm.
and just it's almost as if you there's a shift in you're like it's almost like you're going through some sort of not a portal, right? But some kind of
Oh yes.
dimension. You know what I mean? Like you almost immediately on the plane, you can almost feel it on the plane as you're approaching the city. It's very, very interesting. And I don't know if it's the collection of ideas or thirst and hunger for the material, maybe in one spot. So I think New York has, they say these places have that vibes,
Hmm.
right? New York is very buzzy and busy, and we're all really trying to stake a claim in the city, the Big Apple.
Right.
In Los Angeles, it's like there's this hunger for for not success so much as acknowledgement, recognition.
To be a
There's like
star.
a
You want to be a
yeah,
star? Yeah.
yes, yes, which is it's bizarre.
No, it is, and that's I. It's like I've been visiting. I have family out there now, so I've been visiting more recently, and it's taken a few visits to like not be terrified of it as a city. I get to go
Right.
back in April now for a fencing tournament. I'm going to get to stay at the
Oh,
Biltmore, right? The actual like fancy hotel in Beverly
that's
Hills
cool.
Cop. But
That'll be different.
that'd be
Yeah.
different. But that I'm realizing this is pertinent to our work in Draco Alchemicus, because the main character in our story is, well, I mean, he's a Christ figure who's come into this city, and the big mystery, we have to keep telling everybody what the like punchline is, because nobody will read it otherwise. It's like, what,
Right.
it's a love story, okay? And he's come to rescue his bride, um who's in the city. And I had this insight, this past year visiting Los Angeles, and also spending a lot of time reading about the Franciscans in this last year, the
Mhm.
medieval preachers, right? And Los Angeles is named after the church that they were most devoted to.
Mm.
It's the city of Our Lady of the Angels,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
literally on the Portiuncula, which is they've named a river apparently around
Mhm.
LA after
Mhm.
that. That this should be the city of Our Lady. It should be one of the most sacred places on earth, right? Dedicated to, I mean, if you're in the Spanish speaking world, like the Lady of Guadalupe, right? That the lady who is, crowned with stars and clothed in the sun and standing on the moon. And instead you have, well, Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's a city at odds with its own name, in my vision now, right? That it's the city
Yeah.
that ought to be the city of Our Lady, Queen of the Angels. That's why it's Los
Mhm.
Angeles, right? The queen, it should be Reina de Los
Mhm.
Angeles. So it should be
Mhm.
the or maybe, I don't know, I think in Latin, not Spanish, but it should be the city of Our Lady of the Angels. And
Right.
instead it's this like shadow version of
Right.
that holy city.
I mean, if you ask me, I always think about the word, and not to take it there,
Mm, mm.
but there is this idea of exaltation, and everybody wants to be seen and heard. No one really should be worshipped but God,
Right.
really,
Oh yeah.
to the point where we're worshiping, and really it's a place that is also a space built around the idea that you too can be God. I can create you into a magnificent thing, or you could become something so magnificent that you are worshipped and deified. And you have to think about what that might do to a person's psychology, and thus mass psychology of a group.
Oh,
If we're
definitely.
all here trying to be the divine, I mean, who should really be exalted that way? And not to demonize, LA, shout out to, to all my Angelos and people really just trying to have fun, because, I've dabbled in the improv and things of that nature, and it's a lot of fun to have fun and play with ideas. But we should always remember we're not here to be worshipped, and I think that is such a strong underlying sentiment of Los Angeles is deification. Everything is made to be so grand. The museums are, look where the Hollywood sign is. It's all the way up high there.
Right.
Like,
Up on the
you
hill.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the statue of Jesus, in Brazil. It's almost like, hmm.
Well, this is one of the reasons that I've always been frustrated with Los Angeles, because from my perspective, so I've now managed to have association in some way with the four biggest cities in the United States. That I went to undergraduate as a college student in Houston. I was a graduate student in New York at Columbia, and I've been teaching in Chicago now for 30 years, since the earthquake in LA. And it's only recent. I have associations now with UCLA, and I've got to figure out what this quadrant of our country is, right? This sort of quadrant
Mhm,
space.
mhm,
The other three all have centers, right? It's like Houston has this magnificent downtown, which has one of my favorite sort of skyscraper elevations, that one of the Philip Johnson buildings, which is this Gothic architecture going up, right? But it's fairly significant and focused downtown. New York is obviously downtown. It's like the big downtown.
mhm,
It's everywhere downtown.
mhm,
Chicago,
mhm,
our loop and the facing the water. Couldn't figure out what the center of Los Angeles is. There is none, right? It's like
mhm,
it's nestled in all those hills. It has a little downtown with the Biltmore and the convention center and stuff like that, but it never felt to me like it's somehow a city without the city. There's this huge city with all of these different valleys and all these different little neighborhoods and stuff, but no actual core focus. And now I was it was developed differently. It's a Spanish layout of like roads so that you're never getting blinded by the sun and things like that. It's actually quite clever. Um, but it's also it wasn't made for the same purposes as I think the other three were.
mhm,
And that's what I'm sort of in this quest now to figure out what Los Angeles is.
mhm,
And I think what
mhm.
you're describing is everybody now, what everybody wants is they can go there and they can be projected on the giant screen. They can be
Right.
transformed into, and that I did notice, right? It's like you see the ads for the movies, and if you're in the Hollywood
Mhm,
area or the studio, the older studio area, you see all the
mhm,
billboards for the movies and things like that. You say, okay, so you come here to be projected onto a screen, but that's not real, right?
mhm, mhm,
It's this illusion.
mhm. Yes, no, for sure. I was sitting here thinking as you were speaking about the sociological distinction between place and space, right?
Yeah.
So space is really defined in sociology as, you know, sort of like something, an area that sort of awaits human interaction. So it's kind of like it doesn't carry the same cultural weight as a place does.
Hmm.
Like there's a definite culture to Chicago, to New York City. You know, LA it's kind of blank. There's something vacuous about it. There really is. And I've been there long enough to sit quietly
Hmm.
in that space, feeling for place, and there really isn't one, because it's there's no consensus on, everybody's trying to be something, the main character of some kind, versus, a player in a grand setting of a place. It's really vacuous. I don't know if you've ever really spent time. Well, you have in
But
Los Angeles.
no more than like a long weekend at a time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been there for almost 2 years now, and
Okay.
I've taken classes, and I've had some really good times. But you can tell that there's an absence of, like, cultural consensus. There's always this sense of displacement, actually, that drives interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get people who will be, who will really just want to know how you can help them fit in somewhere. And by doing that, there's a disagreement in the psyche that says, well, I don't belong anywhere, really. I'm trying to belong, right?
Right.
There's a wanting to be a part of something rather than an acceptance of being a part of something. The camaraderie is really not there. I don't know how else to say it, really. And anyone who's been in LA long enough, really, and isn't from there and thus feeling defensive right now, just honestly,
Are we? So Casey's saying any city named after the Mother of God is going to be very spiritually charged, right?
look, there it is. And it brings us to our portraits, really, and what we're talking about, the
Right.
maze and the search for the center.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And if there's no, we get mazes. I mean, if I want to drag us into our presentation, we enter a maze with the idea that there's an out. They're designed in a very particular way.
Yeah.
But what's the out in a place? Well, excuse me, in a space that doesn't agree on what really, honestly, that we're all, as much as culture changes or zeitgeist, so does Los Angeles, right?
Right.
If next week bugs must be protected, there will be a law in place in Los Angeles. You may not swat that fly. Okay?
Right.
Put
Yeah.
down the forefingers. So it's all very interesting. It's very interesting to bring up Los Angeles.
It's nice to say there's this maze at the Getty Center, which is not a center, right? The funny when you're saying that, the Getty Center calls itself a center. There's no center to it, right? If anybody who's been there, I didn't take pictures of this, right? But it's like several different elevations up the hill of these buildings that have no center. There's a kind of courtyard there that is sort of between spaces, but it's not really, again, a center. It's like, I mean, it's obviously non-traditional architecture. But that means that it's constantly begging the question of what it is. The villa is modeled on a Roman villa and has this big reflecting pool and is completely rude. It's clearly it's one of these. I realized when I went there in June, it was like I just spent the morning or the going for tea and such in Beverly Hills, and that was where all the rich people go for their glamour and showing off and stuff. And the Getty Villa is like the ancient version of it, where you go and show off your artwork and your strange statues and have sex parties. Sorry. Right. And you can feel that, right? It's like that the villa makes sense in LA, whereas this Getty Center, it's like it is a giant question mark, and it's like center of what, with a maze as its central motif in the garden. It's all very, very topical. Yeah. Okay. So now that we bewildered you all, right, completely, and say it's like, in what did we see? Well, this is right now. The Getty has this. If you everybody go see it. It's only on for the next 2 months, right? It's through December. One of the most astonishing and beautiful and like heartbreakingly poignant exhibits I've ever seen, which may have something to do with me, but and also things that we've been thinking about in Draco Chemicus and in the Mosaic Ark, and also all the McLuhan imagery of light, right? It's an exhibit on, it's called Lumen, just Getty Lumen, or Lumen Getty is my whimsical name here, because there's a Catholic center in Chicago called Lumen Christi. So that I have that in my mind. And Lumen Getty for me is like, okay, the light of the Getty. What did I see? What was there? And I knew I had to go see this exhibit when I saw some online advertisement for it. And there, in fact, you can see this on screen, guys, was the very manuscript that we used as the model for our sigil in Draco Chemicus for like the planetary dynamic that we're trying. And I was like, I must go. I absolutely have to go see this. And then, of course, when I've come back and I've got to have Captain Zodiac back on, because we gave you that character, right? It's like you are speaking from the stars now, or you're speaking for the planets, right? And so I thought if we could, you know, share some of your responses to, I'm showing the images, that some of the pictures that I took. I couldn't believe how many of my favorite manuscripts in the entire world were in these two rooms. The friend that I was with, I kept, there's another one, and he's like, you're about to faint, and I'm like, I may. It was like talking about stars and celebrities, right? I was seeing the celebrity manuscripts, this manuscript that I'm showing you, it's the Leiden Aratea. It's a 9th century manuscript that is a Carolingian copy of a Roman manuscript that was a translation of the Greek, right? So this is like this manuscript has lineage, but this image that we've used for our sigil in our storytelling was painted new for this manuscript, and it's showing the planets in the configuration they had potentially on the day of creation, right? That's one of the astronomical theories about what this is showing, so that you can see the planets in their arrangement with the zodiac and their configuration with each other in this it's geocentric, not Copernican, but with this interesting little extra with Venus and Mars circulating around the sun that is then going around the Earth. So it's a fascinating design image, but may in fact be what represent 9th century efforts to show like the origin of time, which is great. This manuscript I first read about in a book called Meetings with Remarkable Manuscripts by Christopher DeHamel, and I felt like that. It's like we have more pictures in the slide deck of more of my favorite manuscripts, but you can imagine if I was as excited to see this one, and there were others in the exhibit that I didn't realize were going to be there. It was like talking about walking down, walking through Hollywood, and seeing the people that you've seen on screen, and there they are. No, these are my people, right? These are my characters that I've worked with and studied with and longed for, and thought about for decades, right? So here we are sharing some of you. But so how do you feel now meeting your avatar original? with I have a close-up of that manuscript. All of them are gold too, right? They were choosing manuscripts for this exhibit that were demonstrating their feeling about being in the light, right? We're in the light now, and it's a totally like Marshall McLuhan understanding to be in the media of the light, to be talking about these representations of light. That was a bit of a fire hose, but I do that, you know that.
I thought it was interesting that we if you look at the way that the circles are drawn there, they're not like perfectly separated. Some of them are they're almost hugging one another.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It really made me think about the orbit of light, and how, at times we may find ourselves almost colliding with, I'm not quite sure what is to the right of the man in the center. What planet? I can't see clearly what that's to be, but it's almost like, some of these lights are smaller than others. It doesn't mean they're any more or less, they are any more or less significant. And I would say that, given the fact of their location in relation to the gentleman in the center, who I suppose is to represent the center.
The one in the center. So this is in the. I've got the close up on screen right now. The one in the center is Earth. So that's what's interesting. That in the manuscript, and what I loved getting to see these in person was I've seen reproductions of these manuscripts, obviously, for years, and felt like I was seeing them, things that were images that were familiar, but they were completely unfamiliar in the sense that, seen in person, one, you get the sense of how big they are. This manuscript is, it's pretty big, right? It's big coffee table size. It's not the biggest. Some of the manuscripts are even bigger, but this one is, moderately good size. You can see them as they're parchment, right? So they're physical, the skin of the animal skin and such, and then they're basically like bumpy, right? Because they're so gilded that the gold doesn't lie flat. It's like shimmering in the light, and none of them, they were all in person more vivid than I'd ever seen them in reproduction. But in this manuscript, we have the Earth is quite dull right at the center. So I think this picture shows you somewhat its level of radiance, right? Whereas all of the planets are shown gilded. They're all shining, right? They're the heaven. So the planets being in the medieval understanding, they're sort of, on the one hand, they're named after the pagan gods, right? The Mars and Jupiter and Saturn. So they still hold that pagan character, but they're considered, in the heavens. They're they move in different orbits and things like that, but they're part of the celestial radiance. So the gilding in this manuscript is trying to show you that sense of the heavens are shining, and that the planets are seen as stars. They just move around rather than stay fixed.
Right. So now, for some reason, I cannot see what you see. I will
number
say
3.
Okay, that helps. Yeah. Oh yes. Okay, yes. I was referring to the same exact portrait.
Yeah.
So what you say is extremely interesting. Firstly, I just love the play on the roles of. So you even see some of these planets are not even within the circles in there. Mm-hmm. They're not within the concentric circles. They're on the outside. But they're not dim either. They're also in gold.
Well, those on the outside, those are the Zodiac. So the ones in the red ring on the outside, it's a little clearer in number 2, because you can see on the red ring on the outside. Okay, those are the Zodiac. Okay, so one of the interesting things about looking at this exhibit, we have an astrolabe. We'll get to that. Is to make these images, you can feel from antiquity, for thousands and thousands of years, people were studying the stars so carefully. Oh yeah, right? It's like just a lot of the technical manuscripts they had in the exhibit were just numbers, right? It's nothing but numbers, because it's all coordinates for finding them in the sky. And when I said this diagram may be showing the day of creation, it's like really precise to say, here was the Zodiac, this planet was rising in this sign, and therefore you could find the date, right? It's this configuration of planets would only look like this at that moment. It's meant to be a date. It's meant to be time.
No, yeah, I was going to say, I think this might be someone's a snapshot of transits for someone. Mm-hmm. This might be a reading for someone, probably someone powerful, of status, for it to be in gold like this. We might be really, if I saw this, I can't read the Latin, but it looks to me like it might be one of the first transit charts.
Explain what that is. I don't know what that is.
So basically, what we would be looking at is a view of how the configuration of the planets in the cosmos at this given time relate to the configuration of the planets within the cosmos at the time of the individual's birth. So you're able to map those two things onto one another. So if you were to look at this outer ring as where the planets are, where they are at any given time, I am not versed in this ancient, sort of transit representation of a transit, but it really looks to me like someone got a reading of some kind. This is a foretelling of a moment in time.
Well, I mean, that's the idea is it's like the transit of everything. It's creation. It's the
So you think this
the
may be
birth.
just like maybe representative of the fact that transits are occurring?
No, that
That
it's the moment of creation. That it's the there's
oh, you believe this is okay.
like there's two. I mean,
Represent-
two different ways of thinking of it. It's like God enters into time at the incarnation, so that's AD, right? We've got
Mhm.
our calendar and our linear years, but I mean, this is a suggestion that the astronomers have been making because they're saying this. It's clearly showing something precise. It's
Mhm.
not just like, oh, let's slap
Oh yeah.
planets on a picture, right? It's
No, that's what I'm saying,
right,
Rach. I'm saying that like at any given time in real life,
right,
let's take astrology out of it if you'd like to. But it's there whether you like it or not, and this is proof of that. But at any given time, the planets are positioned, within the cosmos in a certain place.
right.
When you're born, they're also positioned in a certain place. So literally, you take a snapshot of what the sky looked like when you were born, and you can map it onto a top of what the sky looks like at any given time.
Right.
And people began to learn that there were trends in these synchronicities. And that's what turned into astrological readings as they're known today, really. Right. But then it was, it really was just the way of this, I'm sure. It wasn't the layman who had access to this type of knowledge.
Well, it takes
Per
so
se.
much. I was sort of passively aware of how hard it is. And
Oh
then
yeah.
looking at the exhibit and saying they had books from, they're in Arabic as well. So it's, the some of
Mhm.
the ancient the Greek tr tradition goes through the Arabic and then gets translated into Latin. There was some Hebrew. This takes the whole like culture of antiquity to do these maps as accurately as they do, and clearly, like, the heavens are moving, the planets are moving, all of these incredibly precise observations, and the autistic level of desire to be exactly right is stunning. What the exhibit didn't talk about, they had nothing about astrology, which was interesting, right? Because I was like, they're just being coy. They wanted to have this idea of here's the light, and they observe it and such. And I kept wanting to say, why, right?
Mhm.
What are they doing with this knowledge? Because these star maps that they're making of the constellations and the planetary movements and stuff are. We'll get to a few more examples to show a little bit at that level, but I mean, throwing up tables of numbers, nobody could see those, right? But they're all incredibly accurate. I mean, not all of them, but it takes the level of accuracy to even notice that the planets rise in particular houses and things like that.
Without telescopes.
Without telescopes.
And we're
Yeah,
accurate too.
yeah.
Yeah, with accuracy. Yeah.
Well, what they have is, okay, so the thing that was most fun was, okay, first you see this manuscript, and then in that same room, there's this wall, this is number 4 picture,
Mhm.
this wall-sized tapestry, which is entirely, focused on this astrolabe, which, if we study this a little more, maybe we can figure out how to read the astrolabes. But the first thing is this was a tapestry made in Belgium, probably in around the early 15th century, for the cathedral in Toledo in Spain.
Mm.
And it's showing, well, this what I'm showing right now is, it's number 4, the astrolabe tapestry, but then there's some more pieces of it. I couldn't show it all in one picture. On one side, there's this number 5. There's an angel turning the astrolabe, right? Because they're trying to show this is how the heavens move. So the astrolabe itself, the scientific instrument, is a model for what the heavens are, with God there shining the light onto, they're trying to be both sort of design worthy and
Yeah.
mythological.
Mhm.
There's Atlas holding the world up, and the angel moving the world, and the angel turning the astrolabe. And on the other side is philosophy with her attendants on everything that you need to know to study the heavens. And I'm like, wouldn't this be great if this is the way people introduce science class now? It's like, look, all of this comes together, right? It's the accuracy of, I'll go back to the astrolabe in the picture. The accuracy of this level of observation, this precise level of observation, coupled with the metaphysics of how it all exists, coupled with the human sciences that it takes to do this study. And this is a giant tapestry for the cathedral in Spain.
Right.
Yeah.
Holy. So I thought, what I thought was interesting was, you see the angel, and you said that's the gentleman at the bottom
Is Atlas.
holding,
Yeah.
Atlas holding the astrolabe and the angel. You see, and look who's in blue. You see the colors blue and red, and we know what those mean, right? And if you don't,
you should tell
then,
us. Blue and red.
Well,
Well,
sure.
Sorry.
We know. No, I said, well, sure. We know that blue represents, responsibility, and it represents power, and sort of regality. What I liked about this was, to hold the astrolabe. He has a crown on, right? It's a dignified position. I'd rock that crown. I'd be a happy man there, sitting there chilling for my picture or whatever. But at the same time, it's a responsibility. And so we need to remember that, to hold the power of moving, of presence. Some of us, I get nervous about having that presence, that gift of sort of moving things without trying to, where you sort of, you don't want attention, but you kind of get it. You're not really, I do believe that some of us have the gift of presence, but that's a responsibility. I don't think that's something that it should be taken lightly or used, back to what we said about Los Angeles, maybe per se for, sort of carnal pleasures or the edification of the ego. This man is holding the astrolabe. That's a great responsibility, right? But it's also a privilege, isn't it? Is it not? To be able to do that under the guidance of God. So I think that privileges are responsibilities. This is kind of the way that I saw this.
This is, I love talking with this stuff with you, because I'm always worried about identifying the characters and this and that, and you're looking at the actual energy in the picture.
Yeah. I thought
great.
It was so interesting, and you see that the only one that ain't without a care in the world is in gold, and she's right within the light of God. Whoever, she just spinning and turning, but has no significance, visual significance, other than she's just all gold. You see these other characters, they've got reds and blues and greens, and she's just an agent of God. That's what the angels are. But so I would gather, and also she's not, the other two are touching the astrolabe. She's kind of like on the crank. Like would wonder if she is the actual angel there, and the other two may be like earthly sort of agents of God in some way.
That they're, I mean, I think what you're reading is, so one, what you're showing is that this is a very well designed image. That they're thinking it's like I said, that there's the metaphysical reality of creation and the light, and that they're moving into the physical world, which is, I mean, one of the things that Christianity is always puzzling about is that relationship between heaven and earth. And here it's trying to show it, right? But that Atlas, as the earth, is holding up the I mean, I don't know, cosmos, And
Yeah.
I think the blue one, I think it's labeled like prime mover, so it's in Aristotelian terms, it's the one who actually, the outer ring, who moves all of the others. They're trying to do, it's like they're trying to do both philosophy and science simultaneously,
Mhm.
and that it matters. I think spiritually is what you're showing too. Atlas is crowned, but he's got the burden of the world.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and again, just call me what you like to, but I see the angel, well, the woman in gold, all gold. And then I look at the woman at the top whose forearms are gold, but her gown is blue,
Mm.
versus Atlas, whose forearms are blue, and he's got the gold gown underneath.
Right.
So there's something about the woman's role here, the and not the angel, not the angelic, but the earthly, the woman in touch, literally in touch, right? With the woman bridging sort of the heavenly and the earthly.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'm seeing the two that are touching the astrolabe. They're touching this thing that is affecting us on earth. And I just thought it was so interesting to see the woman. There's a little grace in her arms. She's got angelic arms,
Mm.
right? And the guy's got the blue, man. He's carrying that weight.
Yeah.
But the other photo I wanted to mention really quick, that's first of all, this is how silly I am. Didn't realize this was all one
It's all
tapestry.
one tapestry. It's huge, right? It's like it covered the
Uh,
huge wall. Yeah.
but everyone, if you take a look at, I think it's four, labeled four,
Okay, I'll
the
go
one
back.
with,
Yeah.
yeah, if you
That's the
show them
middle.
the,
Yeah, that's the middle of the tapestry.
yep,
Yeah.
with also the major and minor. And I noticed a few things in this portrait that were interesting. So we have the star in the middle. There's the acknowledgement of the cosmic,
Mm-hmm.
the center, the cosmic center. And the only other things in this portrait, the only other living thing, well, should I say the only other things that were ever sentient. How else can I say this? The two bears, right? The major and the minor have stars. The only other thing with a star on it is the dead man's head.
Hmm.
And so it just made me think about this idea that the serpent also has a star on him on the right hand side. Everyone, bottom right hand side. Nothing's accidental. Everyone, that's what I'm trying to show
Right.
you. Nothing's by accident on the portrait. So where are the stars in this portrait? And something just drew me to this man's head with a star on it. So all at once in this photo, you see. I want to read my notes because I'm very proud of it. I don't know. You see regality at the same time as savagery, at the same time as the woman in the chair kind of being like chased.
Mm-hmm.
The woman to the left of the star. You see this grand mosaic of the human design. There's a little bit of everything in here. And everything in here is sort of representing a different aspect of the zodiac in its own way. Or should I say a different planetary energy, as astrology would what might suggest,
Right.
which would take me a little while to explain it to everyone, every single thing in this portrait. But I thought it was really cool that people were painting things like cool, I'm using that easy word,
Yeah.
but really cool. People were painting things like this with such meaning, such layered meaning.
Well, and this was, I mean, as familiar to them as our celebrities are now, right? It's like saying we started with the meditation on LA and the
Mhm.
desire to be a star. And these are, I mean, some of these stories, the constellations, are right, Hercules or Orion or whatever. It's like they were heroes and they were lifted up into the stars. So our whole vocabulary of Hollywood stars is this, right? It's saying you will be um, so great on Earth that you will be lifted up into the heavens and permanently there, right, in the fixed stars,
Mhm.
in some kind of um like a frozen story, but still
Mhm.
alive in that cosmic sense. I mean,
You've got everyone sort of, you've got one person who looks like he's trying to when he wants the queen's hand in marriage or doing his duty, showing her he's slayed this person. I believe that's a queen. I don't know how they identified, but this royal person at the bottom, in front of that's being shown the head.
Right. This is showing my vast, it's like passive knowledge of things. I'm thinking that's Perseus with the head, but
I thought that said Perseus
yeah,
up there on top of his helmet.
the bears, that's Ursa Major and Ursa Minor.
Yes.
That the embarrassment of when you realize how much you've kind of, and I think it's worthwhile for me too when I'm thinking about, like, what do I know about Los Angeles? Oh, what's the name mean? Oh, right, it's Mary City. That these stars are still up there and we're not paying attention to them, but they're not gone. They're still very much this sort of, I love the way you're talking about the drama that the stars show that we are still living in, and yet I can't identify them. I realize I've never spent enough time looking at the stars. I probably can name like 3 constellations. Orion was easy. I remember seeing that when I was walking to school and walking to the bus stop in middle school or something. But to know that people for centuries could see these stories every time they looked up, and we generically don't see them at all, right? We're so busy looking at our stars on Earth.
Well, I say that all the time, that we don't look up enough. As kids, we're always looking up. We're too, and then think about this. Oh, kids are so creative. You get older and you get sullied and blah blah. Right. Well, look up a little more, and you might feel a little more optimistic about things. And people have to remember that Earth, as science would have it, is a collection of particles from stars that have crashed into the planet.
Right.
And even if, as God is our creator, we still eat plants that are fed from minerals, that were in these stars. And so we are of the cosmos, and that it's a matter of fact, really.
Well, this is what's lovely. I'm going to keep moving through the astrolabe here. So we have go back to with the we're with the philosophy and such. But I want what you're thinking of, like when you say we are stars. When Carl Sagan says that, we're stardust. Ooh, right. It's like that is actually the way the people who are making the images that we're looking at right now we're thinking. It's like the cosmos, the macrocosm. The big order, right? Macrocosm is the microcosm, is the sort of local order of the human being. And if we say that, if you say it in the way you're just saying, with the minerals from the stars and stuff like that, does it sound scientific, or does it sound, sort of mystical and woo woo? And it's like, look, they got it.
Right. No, and they combined the two. This about England, how it was this backwater place and muddy, and no one could figure out how in the hell they conquered so much. And you start looking at what was different about them. And one of the defining features of them, everybody thought they were nuts, was that they planted based on the stars, they mated, they married, they divorced, everything was based on observations of the sky. And now I don't know that this is divine knowledge as maybe a way for us to give reverence to God's presence in general. Right? Because there is free will. I have to say that because I always get this from people. It's like, well, I can be, I'm not this and I'm not that. And well, you're more than, actually. You're not a Pisces, you're a human being. You're much more than where the sun was at when you were born. And the sooner I think we start giving more reverence to what's right above us, it's not right in front of us. That's the great lie. And I'm even talking about reverence to the heavenly, really. I think we'll be in a much better place. Just reverence, just listen a little bit. What do they say? Take what works and leave what doesn't. Because a lot of it is way too eerily, accurate and coincidental to not be something. I mean, I'll tell you guys, very recently there was a comet that was said to between the 14th and the 20 something of this month. Everyone in the chat, just tell us what happened to you in the last couple of weeks that was like, whoa, this is very different, and I'm not thinking about things the same way I used to, because it almost
hands
happens.
Raised.
You see what I mean?
No, we got Casey saying we are made of stardust, and to stardust we shall return.
Hey Casey, listen.
Casey apologizes for not being here on camera. She lost her voice, right? So she's here.
That's all right.
I mean, like, really, pray for Casey. She needs her voice back because we have a plan for next week.
Yes, you have to remember, guys. You know, I think the great lie is that we are alone, and there is no above. It's just us here. That's it here. But I don't know that it is our job so much as to figure out where we fit in here on Earth, as much as how we fit in what has already been planned for us by the divine. And you get there the way you get there.
Right.
And then this mosaic really exemplifies that idea that, you can sit on your crown on the seat, and it looks pretty bitchin' over on the left side with the guy.
Philosophy. Well, on the right side is philosophy surrounded by her court, right? And it's like, we're gonna rule the world by sitting on the throne.
Yeah, look at philosophy all pissed because all they could do is they're just speaking, they're not involved in really. They're just messengers of sort of, the divine. But look at the divine. Look what happens when you embrace that bit. I mean, look, it's a lot going on over there. It's a guy with a magic mirror. I don't know what the serpent is gonna.
Oh yeah, go back. I was showing them some other things. I need to go back. I gotta drag you through these pictures, or else we're gonna be stuck. So
where are we?
Now we're to the dragon, right? Number 7. And what I do want you to talk a bit technically about the houses in the zodiac and such, because one of the things I realized that all these diagrams, what's fun about this is a printed book from 1540 in Germany, and it's saying it's a lunar latitude calculator, which I just had to take a picture of it because it's got a dragon on it, and but the dragon turns, right? You use its nose to point to different parts of the zodiac for time, and that it's meant to show you the moon, right? This is just a tiny example of the degree of calculation it takes to know all of these things, right? Here's the moon, here's the which sign the sun is rising in on a particular day, where the sun is on the horizon, which stars are visible, and that all of those things, they're paying attention. The people making these books and these diagrams, all of these things paying attention to. Again, that it's like, why do we even have astronomy departments in the universities? Oh, like, what will we do with astronomy? And I realized there's always a game about saying, oh well, yeah, the church hated science, and so when Galileo said that the earth moves, they all made fun of him, and like, you have no idea how much attention these people have been paying to the heavens for millennia before that, right? These are not like slack, oh, we just think the earth is flat and we don't even study it. It's like, these are the people that study it so intensively that they believe there is a relationship between what they're seeing in the sky and what's happening on earth. In a way, I just don't think anybody actually, I mean, I'm not sure we take any science that seriously now. So we need to study it with this level of precision to really know something, unless you want to blow things up, and then people get really precise, I suppose.
No, I mean, yeah, and everybody wonders why why the cycles happen, and I keep, people get so frustrated at not understanding, having the lack of that, right? Like, and it's not meant for you to know everything that is to be, right? But there is something to having discernment and being prudent and being responsible with your free will. And I think, and just to pull it back into your specific question about the houses, I'll try to summarize it like this.
Okay.
You know, they call it the house system. There are other terms for it, but basically it just points to the angle at which a particular planet is resting within a constellation at a given time.
Right.
And the idea is that the resonance of, or the alchemy, actually, of the planet and the constellation will vary based upon, you know, the angle or the position of the planet within the zodiac as
Right.
it moves around in the sky. So again, everybody, this isn't just like, you know, people study this. This is really one of the, I'll have everyone know I do have a doctorate in public health and social welfare. And, you know, I've studied sociology for quite some time. And, you know, that's what these people were in a way. They were sociologists.
Mm.
You know, they were studying groups and group behavior, but they were sort of like you know,
Socio-astronomy, yes.
Yeah,
Well, okay, so this
astronomologist.
is the thing is there's this cosmic level of here's this dragon in the sky pointing to the
Right.
different movements, and then the next it's the images are helping us tonight. They're in the right order. This is actually, well, no, it's somewhat the order of the exhibit, but it's also my order of what the story is. Now we're looking at man, right? And this is when I knew this manuscript was in the exhibit because it's one of Hildegard of Bingen's visions. It's from her Book of Divine Works, and the manuscript was made in the early 13th century. And it's showing humanity in this cosmic reality, right? It's got you know, never mind Leonardo da Vinci with his Vitruvian Man, right? This is Hildegard's man, showing him within the elements, within the winds. All the little heads in the image are winds that are blowing in different ways. The different colors and the concentric rings are, you know, from air, water, fire, right? And there's this fiery ring on the outside, and she's sitting there in her vision, seeing all of this through the gold. This is what we are, right? Stardust made in this, you know, we're made of all the elements, and what you were saying about we're made from the elements that the stars are made of. The elements that we eat are from the stars. This is the medieval understanding. Like we are in relationship with the whole. It's the cosmos. It's not us, you know, trapped on the earth and with no relation to the heavens. The heavens are working on us constantly.
Right. For sure. For sure. I just think it's cool. I love this. This is like when I want this tattoo, you know? I think it's beautiful.
You will. So Evita, hi Evita, she's saying, I obsessed with the medieval art. I've started making prints of my favorites at Walgreens and hanging them up all over the house. Beware, there I do have a tattoo from one of the books in this exhibit. I don't have the picture from that. I have a picture of that manuscript, not my image that yes, you will be tempted to have these on your skin because they are like cosmic in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know your room is rocking, girl, with all those portraits on there. But you know, guys, we just gotta, with due respect, we have to think about the Catholic Church. You know, there's the separation of Catholicism from astrology, which is relatively recent, relatively, when you think about the history of Catholicism, really. It was a very, you know, it was a wisdom that was held very close to the chest, you know, by Catholic rulers. And really, you know, it's been suggested that the reason it had to be rejected was because of the bastardization of astrology. You know, you had people on the street using it to get money and trying to tell fortunes from it, and just ignoring the fact that this is divine. The skies are really divine.
Right.
They are divine bodies. That's in the word. It's in the, you know, it's in the Bible. And so these heavenly bodies, they're bodies, right?
Well, and this is so I have a close up of that of the Hildegard manuscript, and it has, you know, the creator, and I think, I mean, this is a complicated image because he's trying to show the relationship to the creator, and we made in the image and likeness of the creator, humanity. Right. And what the distinction you're making is very important. This between contemplation, it's like the more we study the heavens, the more we understand ourselves and God and the creation, versus always the temptation is like constantly control, right? If I study this, what will I be able to mechanize and control?
Right. And that's not for you. That's for God to do.
Right.
You know, it's just for us to try to pay attention to what he's saying. I do believe astrology offers a way to try and help understand what you may be receiving, but it should always be something that's considered in conjunction with a personal relationship with him himself who made them.
Right.
Or if you believe it's a she or he or they, you know, but the creator.
Well, it is a
And it
they
is,
because it's the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but you know.
there you go. Really.
Him, they,
And that is that
right?
what this is here? Can I ask you to look at there's a woman. I see three men. This is the Zodiac, yes, around the gentleman in the center.
This is so it's I need to study this a bit more. I think some of what's
It's
showing
12.
is the wind, those heads are winds, right? They've got breath coming out of them, so it's showing the sort of elements in movement.
Breathing life
Yeah.
into man.
Yeah.
And there are 12 of them. There are 12.
Okay.
And someone's observing them from Earth, taking notation.
That's Hildegard. So
Hildegard's, yeah.
she's the nun, and she's being given these visions. She gets visions that are of, you know, the sacraments and the virtues and things like that. But in this book, it's the Book of Divine Works, she's seen creation, right? She's seen the mechanisms of creation. And so some, you know, people like to talk about Hildegard. She has texts on medicine and such. A lot of astrology is medicine in the period, right? Because you need to know when to do things like they do bloodletting, right, according to different configurations. This Book of Divine Works on her part is like her science textbook, but here it is as a, you know, it's like, how do we know what is real? It's coming to her in this inspiration, in this vision. So that's what's going, that's why she's in the edge of the picture there.
And there's God the Father. Look at that. It's really something. And there's 12 around him. Breathing life. There's water and air and sun and radiation from the sun. The elements of life.
Do you think people pay enough attention to the fact that we're alive? Right? Everybody wants to be a robot. We're gonna have AI and, you know, transplant ourselves into robots. It's like, why would you want that?
I know. I think if we all look, don't lie to yourself, you know? Be self-aware at least. And when that honesty begins, everything else can open up. And I believe you're thanked by the grand cosmo. The grand mosaic is grateful. However you want to slice it, there's something about denying what is, you know, and sort of fighting against. I consider it divine. We are divine creatures. We are made how we are made, and I think the way to so let's talk about self-actualization, right? So sort of like the way to peace, really, on earth, kumbaya, is when we all start being very honest with ourselves and moving from there closer to how God might want us to be. And that takes reflection, right? And admonition and sort of reverence to, I think, the heavens and their role in our lives. You know, that's a matter of fact, actually. I've seen my life has been changed by just taking a break and considering what the cosmos have to say, the sky is saying right now, or actually really more accurately, what's going on? What's up with these vibes? You know, we all talk about vibes. If you believe in vibes, consider where they come from. What not on earth, because nothing on earth is strong enough to produce an energy so, palpable, that you can like feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You feel these vibes. And I think the trick is to think it's us, right? I just catch vibes. I'm just like, it's me. Maybe not. Maybe maybe you are sensing something, but it comes from somewhere, everyone. These balls of energy in the sky are larger than we can imagine. And there's no way that they're not beaming something onto Earth. Truly.
It's so funny because when
impossible.
you say it's I'm curious what you want to talk about the 14 days, what happened in the last 14 days. But if we tell ourselves like we've got radio arrays out there listening for information and life and stuff like that, and of course in this ancient understanding that these beings, the bodies, the planets, they are alive in other ways
Mm-hmm.
than our incarnate selves. But that what you're saying is they're out there talking to us all the time and we're not listening.
No, and it's a
Never mind life on
and
life on other planets. Like you're not even paying attention to the stars anymore.
and in that way you become sort of a part of a part of something a bit backwards and maligned in a way. And I was walking through an airport. I won't say which one. No more city bashing. People were so
cities are great.
angry.
Cities are great. They're just we're corrupted, not because it's cities, but because the cities aren't what they should be.
Right. It's not the city itself. It's just the phenomena that takes place there. So no, I'm just, if people just really just stop and took a second a little bit more to start, thinking about their place in this thing, I think, we'd be closer to a more, but I think we are getting there. I think a lot of bullshit is getting, I don't know that anyone can lie anymore. You cannot lie. Something's not
allowing us to lie. That's very interesting.
At all. It just doesn't work. It will not work out for you. You have to be honest. And I think we're moving to that place. I mean, now that gets scary if you're a Bible reader, because it's like when there is peace on earth, he comes like a thief in the night. But we're far away from that, everybody. But we want to get towards that, and that's how you bring love and light into your life, and and God, the heavens, the cosmos start to work for you instead of against you. Sorry, it's just true. You'd be really surprised if you just sat down, and I'm not talking about the Sunday paper or I'm a Taurus, because you're not. Right. You're so many other things than that. You were born when the sun was in that constellation, but that's not what you are, right? And this will be my last 60 seconds of digression. I want everybody to consider the planets like a committee, right? It's a committee in the sky who have different attitudes. They're very much affected by where they are and who they're around. So when you get these planets in different constellations, they're a little weird or different or more excitable or less dramatic than they might usually be. And so this is where we get into planets in positions within the sky affecting us. Because the idea is that there's a bit of an imprint that God knows, that was there before us in the beginning, right?
Right.
Heavens and the earth. If you'd like to think he made the heavens first based on the literal interpretation of the sentence.
Right.
So that's it. I digress. I think that this most recent portrait is just magnificent because it just shows how, look, you're not alone. We're not alone here. And we have to begin to consider what's happening beyond what our simple human minds may comprehend at a whim. Because at any time we're really just reacting to things, or the flesh is reacting. But I would wonder, looking at this portrait here, it looks spiritual to me. It looks more like the the things around the circle, if they're not constellations, if they're not planets, whatever they are, they're breathing spirit
Oh yeah.
into the circle. So we're talking about a spiritual, right,
Mm-hmm.
change in a person that can take place when we start to consider what's going on beyond Earth, right? Because Earth is a mess.
I'm just thinking of so many things when you're talking and saying. So we
It's
have
very true.
we have. I promised an astrolabe, and here's an astrolabe.
Okay.
This is made in the 11th century in Toledo.
Wow.
And
Yes.
I mean, when you know, sort of abstractly wondering, it's like, how do medieval people know where all the planets are? These, right? And I
Wow.
spent a fair amount of time in the exhibit trying to understand. They had a little video and they're trying to explain it. So it takes some degree of practice to understand how to read these. And there's two sides of them, and you have to sight along one side and take a latitude basically, and then turn it over and find where the stars are. And the best thing anybody was who are explaining how to use these things say, and you can tell the time. And it's like, okay, you can tell the time with a sundial. So why would you know? No, seriously, the degree of, and these are, an astrolabe is made only for particular latitude, right? It's like you have to have a different one if you are traveling a lot, because they're that precise. You can't just, you know, have an astrolabe. They're made for particular latitudes. They're I've lost myself in this thought. What kept puzzling me and that the exhibit was refusing to explain is, why would you bother? You can tell time other ways, like with a sundial, and yet these are like the proof of science throughout the Middle Ages. There's in Abelard and Eloise's story, famously, Abelard and Eloise are the lovers in the 12th century, and he's the great, you know, philosopher, and she's his wife. It's complicated. They have a child. They name him Astrolabe. Right? It's
wow.
Like, this is an astrolabe was the mark.
It was really popular at school.
Astrolabe, yeah.
Astrolabe.
He's astrolabe. It's like name your kid Telescope, or, you know, Internet, or I don't know. Maybe Elon Musk would know what to name the kid.
Nickname Ass. You know. Oh. Last name Labe.
Right.
Yeah, he had a time of it.
Doctors all had to have one because you needed to know, you know, the stars for doing medicine and such.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like this giant story behind what happens when you know how to use one of these instruments, because you're mainly using it to look at the sky. And the way they talk about the way the scholarship, you know, sort of gestures towards how like significant these things were, you'd think they were magic wands, and yet it's only when you actually, they're not telescopes. All you can do is sight the sun and watch the stars. And what you said, it's like these are all until the 16th, 17th century, these are all observations just with your eyes, right? It can't, no big Hubble telescopes or anything, and yet this is the most popular scientific instrument of the period. Hundreds of years worth of astrolabes. And it's like, I really still want to figure out how to use one, because basically what you can do is take readings off of them and make long lists of numbers about exactly where the star was in the sky.
Wow.
You can use them for mapping, but that's it, right? And so
it's, do they have these at Target? Are they on eBay? Can I buy an astrolabe?
A good one is a few $100s, but that's nothing compared to how precious these things were in the Middle Ages, right? It's like, it's incredibly difficult engraving and you know, yeah. So here it is, the astrolabe.
Very interesting. Perhaps on next visit, we'll wow everyone with a reading from it.
We need to learn how to read an astrolabe. But the thing is, I think basically what you can do is map the stars. I think they're like theodolites or something, right? They're surveying instruments, and they were so popular that we have, I mean, fair numbers survive, and they were the thing that you wanted to have as a, you know, like, intellectual.
Just think how one day someone will look back at, like, Apple CarPlay or Google Maps and be like, these map things got people where they were going,
Yeah.
right? Like the thing to have. But that's essentially what this was. It was a guide.
Yeah.
It was a tool for guidance
I
out there
you
when there was no GPS.
But this is the
You
problem.
know,
You could only use them on certain, like this one is designed for a particular latitude. So they seem to be
right,
made to be used in, like this one was made in Toledo. So it'll be used for Toledo. And then there's ones that are made in Oxford that are good for Oxford. That they don't necessarily move around that easily. There are
right.
some more expensive ones that you could trade out the grid plates and they could work at different latitudes. So there's something, they're not really for traveling. They're really for knowing where you are on the earth.
I wonder if again, like let's say I was going to come visit you and or let's actually say I was considering visiting. I'm a king, another dignitary.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps I would send someone to that dignitary's place in space and have them read this astrolabe and tell me what the stars suggest. I might send my astrologer
Maybe.
to read this and tell me when I should come back or if it's a good time to be there. That had to be one of the functions. If this is a sky reader
Mm-hmm.
and we read the sky to make choices, certainly this was one of those things that would probably be used. I bet. I wonder. Think about it.
This is what I was doing in the exhibits. Was like because the exhibit was like refusing to explain why people cared.
Uh,
And the thing is, I think the why they cared is off the edge of what modern people are uncomfortable thinking about. I mean, they're sort of moderately comfortable thinking about the spiritual stuff, maybe, but the sort of real connection between the heavens and the earth, which is what
right,
these astrolabes are about, I think
right,
is really hard for people to hold on to now. And we want them to be science instruments, but that doesn't explain the appeal of doing this kind of incredibly detailed observation. Because unless you believe, they're always anxious about saying, we read the stars, we know what's happening in the future. There's a lot of Christian warning about that. And of course, if you start doing things like predicting the king's death, you're in trouble.
right,
So,
right.
you don't, like predict future predictions are quite perilous for the reasons that you're saying. People have free will. They don't necessarily do what the
Mhm,
stars are showing at the
mhm.
time. And yet the people who use these instruments have more confidence in the reality of these
Right.
relationships than we do.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because again, it's not it's not a predictor.
Right.
It's more of an observation of what's going on at a given time,
Right.
which may or may not affect you because of who you are as a human on Earth.
Right.
But so I don't know if it is. So you're right about that, Rachel. I don't. And pardon me if it seemed I was saying that maybe they were trying to predict,
No, I
but I
didn't
would
think you
bet.
were. I was making clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I would bet you it was more of one of those, what's it saying about what's going on in, Jehoshaphat right now?
Right.
Where's Venus, Mars, all of that? Tell me what it looks like at the moment. What are the stars saying about my visit? And then you'd have someone send them that message and they'd make the visit or not. The Queen Elizabeth, the one with the Kate Blanchett, Queen Elizabeth, she was very famously, you know, um, very famously attuned with astrology
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and used it quite frequently. She never did get married, but interestingly enough, well, excuse me, the Virgin Queen. If you read her chart, I mean, wouldn't come as a surprise. But
Interesting.
then again, look at her suitors, and we didn't have Tinder. It was slim pickings probably for her back where she was. It wasn't exactly what it is today. So anyway, I digress.
That's
These
definitely a digression. But
these are amazing things. These things.
what I think when I'm thinking when you're saying this, it's more like we would worry about the weather now, right? I mean, it's like we'd specifically worry about the weather if we were going to be traveling and say you're worrying about the cosmic weather and what circumstances you're going to be in. That I could think about.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Maybe a person interested in tracking storms or tracking, as you just said,
It's like
planetary
star
movement.
storms, star storms,
Yes,
star movements. But
cosmets,
cause
comet.
yeah, but to consider that you know this was the high tech precision instrument they
Right.
had, and if you
Amazing.
you know anybody who wants to sneer at the medieval world for not understanding things like the sun, yeah, you do it. Figure out from this kind of level of detailed observation exactly what's going on in
Really
our
something.
relationship to the stars. It's they took it more seriously than I mean, the flat Earth guys. You guys, I want prove it with it. Actually we could use that with the internet conversations where you say show physique. It's like show astrolabe.
Wow.
Show that you know how to
No,
take
really.
these
We'll give
measurements,
you a
right?
year.
Yeah.
We'll even give you a
Show
year.
astrolabe.
Yeah.
At which
Right.
point, so we're moving on. Then we get to like the degree of contemplation that goes into a claim, as for example in the beginning, right? This is a choir book showing God in the there's loads and loads of references like this. Here's the earth in the center of these spheres. They all think in spheres, right? They all think it's round, but they also think it's dynamic. And so when you're doing something like thinking about in the beginning God made heaven and earth, which is what this says, right? As a song, you're participating in that. And this is this wasn't in the exhibit because they're mainly focused on light, but it's also sound, right? The spheres are moving, and they have a whole understanding of this as a music. It's like the music of the
Hmm.
spheres is an actual, they think it's a physical phenomenon
Hmm.
based on the movement of all of these
Hmm.
planets,
Hmm.
which I just love. I think that's
Oh, I mean,
so beautiful.
we want to talk about spiders and how they're able to, you can affect the spider's movement just through sound. I mean, look, there's all types of things out there, you guys on YouTube. We know what sound does. It's pretty hard to deny the affect of sound
Right.
and resonance at this point, you know, really. I mean, we get these 808 beats on a lot of the more mainstream, some of the mainstream genres that have the same boop to do, the same beat
Hmm.
that seems to produce the same characters, or at least performative actions, if I may say so. And there's this very specific 808 resonance that, according to um, those who follow chakras, is connected to, sort of the carnalities,
Mm.
the banal and the carnal. And it is in fact the most common sound in some interesting genres of music today. I'll say that, to say the least.
Well, this is obviously also an LA phenomenon, right? Because of the music industry. So
Yeah, that's the reason you get humpy when you start hearing certain music. You feel a certain kind of something.
well, and again, everybody in the Middle Ages would have totally understood this. And that I mean, the problem is we are in a situation where people are trying to engineer things, obviously, with
Right.
the production of particular tunes,
Absolutely.
and we don't take it seriously, and yet it's I'm thinking for other purposes on another talk that I'm doing, and one of the sort of the problem of the arts versus sciences, right, which is the wrong dichotomy. But there's mathematics, and apparently people get paid a lot of money if they are going to mathematics, and then there's arts degrees, right, which get paid nothing. And I'm like, this is a lie, right? Because the music industry is incredibly caught up in the money making, but it's also intensely powerful because it's what's
Yes.
driving, as you just
Yes.
said, so much is people's behavior. And they're not even thinking about it. It's like, oh, I'll just put the tunes on. It's like, and now you are behaving according to the music.
As a matter of fact, sound moves. Sound moves. Just
Yeah.
go yell at a paper
Yeah.
bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, at the cellular level, certain sounds can move, your brain chemistry into a certain way. It's not to say you're fully victim to what you're listening
Mm.
to, but it affects you, right? And we do know from research that some sound does have a statistically significant affect right?
Yep.
On the brain.
Yep.
So that's all you really need to know. It's a matter of fact. So, just be careful out there when you're mixing, you know, when you're mixing different types of influential externalities into your evenings.
Mm-hmm.
You start drinking, you throw a little music on, you get the temperature where you might like it, and then you're spraying the cologne you like. I mean,
Oh, it's all of these. It's the
the
our senses are
alchemy.
the alchemy of the senses. But this is so. But what I had not planned this, right? This is fun. The because the exhibit was on light, so it was on the visual. But the this understanding of the cosmos is oral too. It's the music that goes into it, and again, all of medieval art, all of medieval worship. I mean, because we're getting to is actually medieval Christians understood the tech went into the worship, and that all had to be in this harmony. So that's why there's an image of the creation in a songbook. They are singing about the creation constantly. It's where they are, and that we don't sing about creation as a culture. I mean, so I think this is why Los Angeles is so sad, right? It should be filled with hymns.
Mm. Mm.
It's in mourning for the right music. I did actually go to an opera in LA this year, which was very good at the opera house, which makes me thoughtful. But
that must have been interesting coming out of the opera, being around, to go from that experience to whatever the streets were giving when you got outside. Like,
it was
I
downtown,
know it wasn't
so it wasn't that
rapturous.
The downtown isn't that busy compared to Chicago.
Well, I was kind of thinking that, like, it certainly wasn't equally rapturous.
Right.
When you got outside, it wasn't like people were filled with the spirit of.
Right.
Well, you tell me.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's quiet, right? It's actually, I found it,
Again,
I find it
you see?
interestingly quiet. But the thing is, a lot of things are quiet now that people live in their earbuds, right? It's like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there used to be a lot more sound other than traffic with music and things like that. Now everybody's just got their own private music, and they're not listening to the thing that is in the environment.
And I come back to really quickly to place and space, and you start thinking about how the digital becomes the new place where culture exists.
Yeah.
Which is really fricked up when you think about it, because a lot of these opinions that are posted under tweets are not humans, everyone. They are bots.
Right.
There is an algorithm in place. Sorry, I said it. Boom. Ban me. Who cares? There's an algorithm in place that knows how long you stare at a sentence, how long it takes you to click retweet the sentence. Yeah. And it has a vested interest in your engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going to post, you think it's going to post what's best for you or best for it to continue proliferating its control?
Right.
This is the truth. They're not real. A lot of them are bots. So,
yes, we're getting in an interesting place. One, you're saying, I think accurately, it's going to be harder to lie, but on the other hand, this is a lie, right? It's like who's actually speaking. And I do agree with you. I think for us actual human beings, we are interestingly, it's harder to lie. But on the other hand, it's going to be proof of reality. Like, when are we human beings as against these bots? We have to do something that doesn't fit the algorithm. and that's actually a nice image for the problem of, like, if the astrology is not the human beings are not controlled by it. They're working in it and being able to be different from what the programming is saying.
And that just as the stars in the heavens interact, as we saw in that first Mosaic, we should do the same. I don't think we talk enough. I don't think we interact. I really don't think the level of interaction is the same. We can blame it on what we want, but it's just a matter of fact, we're not interacting at the same level, say in line at a store or at a gas station. Most of us are we have our devices that do a lot of the communicating for us
Right.
across space, which turns the internet into a place and removes it from Earth, from where we are as our bodies are.
Right.
It's like a disembodied experience, and it, in certain places it's really clear and present. And I do think LA is one of those places where you can just feel the disconnect. So you hear people say it's not fake, it's not real, it's fake, blah blah. It's really what you guys are referring to, this feeling of disconnect, disassociation from, from truth.
Right.
Because I don't think anyone's concerned with who they are as much as who they need to be so that other people can, deify them, like them, want them,
Well,
love them.
so now we have the creator that I did not know this manuscript was in the exhibit, and this is
Oh, look
what's
at that.
nearly made me faint, because this is one of these great 13th century moralized Bibles. I have in my studio here a replica leaf from one of this one, right? I think this is the
Wow.
I no, this is a different book, but there are a few of these made to this like conversational design. But here's this creator, here's the creator, here's God making the physical world that we inhabit. And as you were just talking just now about how we live in the internet as if it is this other space. It's this now I have this from the Indiana Jones movie about the crystal skull. It's this interdimensional space. We live in this
Right.
interdimensional connected crystal world that is no longer the physical world that we're inhabiting, which is the one that we were actually created to be in.
Right.
So it's this kind of like, is it an alt heaven? No, it's not really an alt earth. It's this alt space that we are now inhabiting more with our attention than the physical world that we're made to inhabit.
And how lonely and desolate the ethos must feel, that we're not, it doesn't get our voices as much, the resonance of our voices. We're not giving back to what has given to us, really.
The breath.
And that's really something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this and just us us giving to one another in a palpable way, the disembodiment of the spirit is purely digital. It's really something. It's like, oh, people, it's realer to them than what is real, what's actual, I should say. This version of truth is actualized in their minds more saliently than what they may realize in person. So you get these people who seem a little bit like, just like, are you like delusional? Maybe like it's a form of like delusion.
It's kind of well,
like,
it's a kind of we've in Draco Chemicus we think about it. It's a kind of drug trip, right? You're in this
yes,
this illusion. Yeah, and you can get. I mean, the algorithms and the scrolling and everything. Obviously, it's like I recognize it in myself when it's like I need a hit now. I need to scroll for a bit, and it's like, what is that?
It will possess.
Yeah.
It possesses your everything, your your mind. These rabbit holes. It happens. So we just need to be vigilant. And one way to get your mind out of that plastic, glass, rubber, electric thing, right, is to look and read more and think more about what is eternal, what's been eternal, what's eternal, right? Because this we don't know what's going to happen. This is the information age that we're in.
Yeah.
So I mean, the creator's still there. And this is interesting, Rachel. I wonder.
That's a very happy
it
thought.
is.
Yeah.
He is. And I'm wondering, I see him holding a measurement device. I thought of the song, "He's got the whole world in his hands."
Here it is.
Okay,
yeah.
I did it.
Well, there's these 13th century moralized Bibles. There are a few of them that have this image of Christ as geometer or architect, and I think if you look at the picture that I have on my they loved circles, right? These guys, the artists for these books use a lot of they use the compass a lot because they're making circles all the time. And but
Mhm.
it's also the instrument they use to build the cathedrals. So, they are
Mhm.
conscious of themselves participating in this craft, and they're showing God in that craft work that they themselves are in. And it's I love that I got to see this manuscript in person because, one, it's huge, right? It's one of these giant books. It's incredibly heavy because of all the gilding. And it's just, like I said, it's three-dimensional. The pages leap out at you. And
Wow. Do you see how the only and like the only do you look at the individuals in the portrait or the mosaic who have acts who are in proximity to the knowledge being held by the
mm,
creator? It's the people in prayer.
well, those are angels, I think, holding his throne. And then they're I guess the people in the world are in, yes, they're praying. So the angels are on the outside and they hold the throne. You know,
Yes, I'm talking about the prayer hand,
the ones
the prayer
in
hand.
the world, in the elements.
Yeah.
Yes.
There, and one of them is an angel. He's got some wings there,
Right.
but hey,
But
we're praying. We're thinking more about the divine, the cosmic, the heavenly.
right.
That's how we get to that knowledge.
And this is, so we go to the next one. Now we got all the pieces in place.
Oh,
We can, it's the
perfect.
tongues of fire, right? This is a 11th century manuscript. I got to tell you guys this so you know the history, right? It's a benedictional from Regensburg, and this book is actually permanently in the Getty collection. They were showing off some of their treasures too, and this is, of course, showing the descent of the Spirit at Pentecost on the apostles, and it's this, you know, the eruption of the light into the world. It comes with God in the incarnation, but it also comes in the Spirit, to us as Christians through the the Spirit and the fire. And this, that we don't, it obviously makes me sad that we as a culture don't spend as much time in just happiness and joy at this connection that we've been given with heaven.
Right. No, yeah, I want to say, if I may share a small anecdote, I had a very recent experience that helped me come to realize that's where happiness is.
Mm,
In fact, it's the only place it always is in that commune with him. And sometimes it takes everything else to be gone for you to get to that place and be like, wow.
right.
So this is why, sometimes you have to remove yourself, people, places, or things to get to that point where you can really hear what you need to hear from him. Because things can be get in the way of that, really. And that happiness, I think, comes from many things. We can go, that's a whole nother, podcast. But it's certainly in this mosaic, we're seeing reverence for what's coming down, the word.
Yeah. Well, I think so. To be fair to the Middle Ages, they also understand this because monasticism and asceticism are removing yourself from all of this stuff. I mean, Casey's saying, yeah, our digital dopamine is the thing that we're all addicted to. And it's it's not like now is the only time that people have had that temptation. I mean, people throughout history have recognized the world is so enticing that we can get drawn into it and lose sight of our creator.
Mhm.
So that in prayer you're meant to be refocusing, right? It's this reset to be attending
Mhm.
properly to God. And what we need to do that as, is fasting and prayer, removing ourselves from the constant feed. I think we can, I mean, take some heart from the fact that it isn't a new problem. It's an old problem. And all of these
Right.
these traditions have ways that they recognize you need to train yourself to pay attention to
Mhm.
the stars rather than just to the
Mhm.
to the earth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think every emotion is valid as long as it's an honest one. and we do something with it to maybe better the situation around us, the people, places, and things. You know, sometimes being upset at something can show someone else. You know, I've had people say, I used to get upset at that, but hearing you talk about it is like, it's really not that serious. Like, I don't think I'm going to keep being angry at that thing because you sound a little ridiculous being mad at that or this or that. That's just one example, right? But it goes the other way too. It's infectious.
Right.
Happiness. Yeah. Again, digression, but I mean, there's 12 disciples here. If I'm sure you, but there are also 12. There are also 12 Zodiac symbols. I must say, wink,
when you
wink.
say it, it's so obvious, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, of course, duh.
No,
Yes. And
wink,
that's, I
wink.
mean, again, medieval commentaries are constantly pointing to these correspondences so that it is this joy, right? We can see the pattern in our own lives. We can see the stars in the stories that we're participating in. Yes, of course it's 12. It has to be 12 because it's the structure. So that we get to this is one of my favorite details, the ruler of the world. And it's a Christ image, but the fascinating thing is this crystal ball that he's holding as the orb for his majesty, and in it are reflected both the hand that he's using for blessing, his other hand, and it's like it's I can't tell whether I can see it. You have to do a kind of like duck goose duck rabbit sort of flip. There's a city in that globe. Isn't that wild?
I see it. I see it. Yeah, there's sort of a tower of light as well to the left of the city.
So it's like this he's holding this crystal city.
Wow.
That is a reflection of his own majesty, which is a real city. It's clearly like Northern European. The paintings from where did I write it down? I forget. It's from the Low Countries, Quinta Massis. But you can see that it's real buildings in there, and that think about our world. If we thought of it in that kind of relationship with God, it's not that the cities are I'm sorry that we've done so badly with our cities and that they suffer because we're not taking care of them. They're like houses that aren't cared for, but at city level. And they should be, images of our artwork.
Yeah. I think that comes from, again, commune with one another more so. Trying our best to keep the spirit of a place alive.
I like that, yeah.
Otherwise, it's just space. We're just filling space. Just standing there, filling space. I'll talk to you. I'm weird. But in the sense that it's abnormal, actually, sadly, now, to just be like, hi, do you like that milk? Like, I get that milk all the time, whatever you might want to say to a person.
Well, I am happy that we're having, these kinds of conversations in the internet, right? The podcast world does have a lot of conversations, but it's sad if we're not having them actually in real life too, right?
That's true.
That somehow the internet is, academia is constantly worried about itself right now. It's like, where is real education happening? And it's like, well, there's a lot of podcasts out there with people having long, sustained conversations. And then we say, but in real life, nobody is? Well, it's like, well, okay, which is it? But I think what you're saying about the difference between a space is, and I get it. It's like, it's all of the paved road world that doesn't seem to belong to human beings anymore. As opposed to a place that's cared for and curated and domesticated and treasured. I think the places are treasured.
And they are. And they reflect sort of like a collective agreement, right? Yeah. About and about what matter, about what maybe perhaps what matters and doesn't. In the sense that you can go somewhere else and you say the right or wrong, you say the right thing and somebody will know exactly where you're from. In that way.
Yeah, that there is a from, that you can be from someplace, authentically from someplace.
That part, for sure.
Well, we've made it. We've made it. So this is I think we've made a world that therefore doesn't have, and this the next one is the true cross, the actual anchor for reality, which as Christians we know is the cross. This is a reliquary cross, and the center of the reliquary cross has this. That obviously the exhibit was full of these crystal gems, right? Because medieval artisans love these see-through, clear glass crystals or rocks, right? This is a crystal rock that they never mind. Everybody Tolkien people, they're Silmarillions. If you want to know where Tolkien gets that image of these
I see.
light-filled gems, this is it, right? It's their reliquary gems or their monstrances, and this gem is showing you. You can see the red cross in the middle. This is number 15 for you. That it's embedded in the red are slivers of the true cross, and that is like, talk about it like an anchor of place. Christ is here. This is why medieval Christians like relics, right? Because they're the slivers of our contact with the incarnate.
Wow. This is really magnificent. Where would you say this would have been placed? This would have been...
It's a processional cross, so it will be carried in processions in mass.
It's...
Okay. Yeah, it's actually, this one's 12th century setting for the relic. And this it's something that the Protestants got very worried about. It's like you're worshiping the bones or something like that. But the proper understanding of them is it's more than just I obviously reacted to the manuscripts in this exhibit as relics in a sense, because I'm like, I've seen photographs of these manuscripts, and here I am in the presence of the actual physical object. That same kind of feeling of I'm here in the presence of the actual physical cross that our Savior died on. And we pursue this kind of contact constantly. I mean, just you go to Hollywood, you want to see the people whose images you've seen on the screens. Right.
And sort of like that.
Yes. And we do that with people who play in pretend stories, right? This one's supposed to be the story we're in, the real story we're in. The actual creation and redemption story. And here's the physical, like piercing into the heavenly, piercing of the heavenly into the physical. One of the fun things about the way the artists make these reliquary images is the gemstones will be polished and everything, so they don't have facets, they just have these smooth, and there'll be a backing often in the relic settings. There'll be a like silver backing so that the light reflects out, so it's like you're looking at heaven shining from the gem. Yeah. And this one looks like it has one of the I hope it has the original back. A lot of them have reset and they don't put the backs back in, but the authentic ones, you can see it's like it's trying to show you heaven shining through into the world, just like the stars shine through into our world.
Right. Yep. It's just a reflection of us.
Yes. Yes, which gets us to the next one, which is the Holy Face, which is another of these. I'd seen a picture of this online, and I'm like, oh my God, but these holy faces are very interesting, because one of the things that's interesting about they're meant to show Christ as he wiped his face on the napkin, Veronica, right? And it took an image of his face. So it's like the perfect celebrity problem. Replica images of the face of our Lord made as replicas, it's like they make copies of them. And sometimes they'll be like, there's a few printed sheets we have of them of 4 faces on it, right? Here, we're going to cut them up and make lots of little cards. And here's your holy face. Right? nothing new under the sun. Celebrity,
Nothing new. Yeah.
celebrity is like, I want my image of, Mel Gibson or Harrison Ford, or it's like my
Right.
Indiana Jones image. Well, here it is, and we're gonna put it in the book, and then I have an image of the face to contemplate with a prayer about the holy face. But it's over and over and over again, that desire to be in the presence of our Creator.
Yeah. Right. And to bring it back, there is a way to do that. There are ways with an S to do
Right.
that. Many. And I think we touched on some of them this evening so far already. To get closer to that is to get further from the earthbound ideas, hopes, wishes, and dreams, I think, and to start considering what matters to him, to our eternal salvation and souls. Not just our experience right now. Sometimes our experiences really just like suck, but we can be eternally, have that eternal life, sort of the promise of that, I think comes from reflection, sort of acknowledging that we should be aspiring to reflect God in some way as best possible, actually.
Well, this is
Or
the face
Jesus.
meditation is, of course, because we are meant to be reflections of Him, and made. But
Face
but
meditation.
there's also, this lovely meditation that we're made to be in time, and time, of all of the things that the stars are showing us, is time. We went back to our opening image of the day of creation. It's like, because of the movement, and Aristotle talks about this, right? So it's this philosophical problem of, because the heavens move, we know time. So we're in time, incarnate, and that the exhibit also had some abstract modern images, and this one of I called it Hail Mary, number 17. It's basically light. It's just light going down glass fibers, right? It's called a golden ray in vitro, golden ray in glass, and it's meant to, according to the artist, meant to represent the moment of the Annunciation, the incarnation, right? It's like the angel coming to Mary and saying, you will bear the Son of God. And in medieval paintings, that's often shown as the baby coming down a light beam, right? So here we have, God's entry into our time, into, mortality, into change, into movement. But the heavens move, right? The planets move. The planets are always participating with us in this time.
Yep, for sure, absolutely. That's a matter of fact. And then I said this earlier about the reflection of sort of the beams, the reflection of what they're generating, and how far-reaching that might be. I agree with that 1,000%. And it's a matter of fact that they are always reflecting down on Earth. It's not an opinion.
Right. And this is a lovely image of saying, here's this moment of the angel's descent, but that in fact the stars are there all the time. And again, you pay attention to them because you're a sensible person. I don't enough. I can't see them in Chicago, right? I see a handful of stars. And it's overwhelming when I get to go to the mountains, and suddenly you can see them, and you're saying, wow, they're always there. Always. And we're not looking. We're looking at our phones, or we're looking at I read too many books, so I'm reading too many books. So it's like looking down instead of looking up. Maybe we need astrolabes just to train ourselves to look up again.
Yep.
Well, okay, so we have one last image, and this is from the book that I actually have a tattoo from, because I love these images so much. I got no good pictures except for maybe this one off of this little book, because I did not know it was going to be in the exhibit. It is one of the most precious books we have from the whole of the Middle Ages. It's called the Rothschild Canticles. It's in Yale. It's in the Yale Library. And it's teeny weeny. right? Oops, I dropped on my notes. It's teeny weeny. It's sort of like a deck of cards, right? It's like it's about as big as maybe our. Ooh, look, I've got Draco Chemicus cards. It's about this big, right? It's a little bitty, like card-sized book, and it has in it the most incredible series of images of the Trinity that were ever made, because it's this long meditation on the relationship between light and veiling and the three persons. And I mean, this one is simply showing a sort of sunburst image because they were trying to show the light, but the entire meditation is on well, one, how much God loves us. There's also some wonderful images of the Song of Songs and the brides being absorbed in these sunbursts and such. But it was I can't believe I can't believe that they were so right to get this little book as one of the pieces in the exhibit, because it is the prime example of the just joy of participating in this light and paying attention to it. We could talk. We could do a whole episode simply on the series of Trinity images in the Rothschild Canticles. But it's, yeah, if you guys have any doubt whatsoever now about why I love medieval Christianity, it's this, right? It's simply this joy of, we are made in the image and likeness of Creator who said, "Let there be light," right? Rejoicing in that playfulness. This one's fairly playful. Some of the other images are like delightful because they've got dancing lambs and things like that. It's
once more, I'll take it to song. There's a song that says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad."
Yes. Yeah. So here we are, rejoicing in the and to consider that this is the song we should be, in.
And I'm telling you all, there is something that is very comforting about realizing you're not in control of every single thing that's happening.
Yep.
That's what one of the things astrology can help you come to see. You'll say, "Oh my, wow. Okay, that makes sense." And then you can move on and do better, or keep doing what you're doing. It's really true. So when you guys are ready for your reading, your first one's free. I give 30-minute free consult.
No, so this is we dragged you back on to talk about what I want to talk about, but you should tell them a little bit about yourself and where to find you. Mel is saying from the Psalms appropriately, "I have lifted up my eyes to the mountains, from whence help shall come to me."
Yes.
So help. That Captain Zodiac is going to be more present online, even though we recognize we live in this digital world at some peril, so we have to be in prayer.
Yeah, and that's really why, everybody. I know some people were asking about me last time. I'm most of the work I do is in person, actually in person. It's over the phone, but it's not sort of like this online situation. But I'm moving towards understanding that I need to tap in to help connect more people to like truth of things. So stay tuned. I'll make sure to let Rachel know. Maybe you could plug, at the end of, one of your podcasts, once I'm up online properly, you can do like a little 30-second plug of me and say, this is where you can find him.
Well, what we'll do is we are such a full service, operation now. We have a newsletter. and certainly when you are got the different places that people can find you, and I'll do a newsletter so that they know where to find you. And actually I am such a good operator, hostess, that I taught people into doing things like, write a little piece. You're writing something. So no, when you're ready to launch, we will certainly guest host you in the newsletter so that you can tell people where to find you and share the joy of creation.
No, really, I think you guys will be really surprised at some of the, and look, you could just go get a book. You could, if you wanted to, and sort of, develop an understanding of your own. But it's another thing when you're able to speak to someone who's kind of been working with it for a while, right? I'm actually really good now at to where I can kind of suss out things about people's natal chart
Mm.
without them telling me anything. Like, there's certain attributes that just tend to follow certain configurations at people's birth. It just is what it
Mm-hmm.
is. And over time you learn the various manifestations of it, and you can help in that way. And that's all I would really ever want to do, is just help people understand a little better. That's
Well,
all.
I think
We're not telling any fortunes or
it's
anything.
like the astrolabe as what I was describing it as mapping.
Yeah, human
Yeah,
astrolabe.
yeah,
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 sure.
yeah. No, it's like I have yet to. There are some decent astrolabe replicas out there, but I don't know what's the best one yet. I need to learn a little bit more about how to actually operate them before I'm confident even in my picking of a replica. Um, so well, thank you so much for coming back.
You're very welcome.
And we will say to be continued, right? We had
Yeah.
John Carter from Mars, and now we have Captain Zodiac from the Zodiac. I don't know where we're gonna go next, right? There's like the level of promise we've opened up here. I'm not sure.
Right. I'm actually on a cross country journey, really, truly. I'm headed back to the West Coast
Okay.
very soon. So I've been sort of getting a sense of, again, how different places, they just carry different
Oh,
energies.
very much so. Yes. No, I so
And
I
it,
because
it,
I
it
was going to this exhibit, I flew back to Chicago on Tuesday, and I flew over Mel. Hi, Mel. Um, I love flying. I mean, I love flying over the country. I love driving across the country too because of the
same.
land.
Yes.
Yes, it's
Yes.
you can see from the skies, but the land is. I love the road trips. Well, okay, so
Oh, yeah.
I've kept you
Okay.
well past the time. Well, no, actually not
Yes.
totally past the time, but
I'm relying on gummy bears to
yeah, I
to
think
keep me
I can
alive.
hear it. I can hear it. I've gotten as much as I can out of you tonight. So we'll have you back. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
joining us.
I'm very grateful. Of course. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, everyone.
Good night.
Look up, everyone. Look to the
Look
sky.
up.
Amen.